I'm Plat and I can air dribble. Is that good?
I'm 9 years old and I can air dribble.
Are air dribbles the most useful mechanics?
Are helping me.
How do I learn how to air dribble? Viable? So, you suck at air dribbling. Well, I'm here to fix that. My name is SolidP, and I'm a washed SSL with thousands of hours in the game. And today, I'm gonna teach you how to air dribble in Rocket League, because it's actually so much easier than most players think. Starting with the easiest, but also most important part of the air dribble is actually the setup. And this is not something you can skip out on, so make sure you pay attention. So the first thing for the setup is we're gonna actually roll the ball. We can't have a bouncing ball here, because it'll just mess up our setup. And trust me, this is gonna make things a lot easier for you. So the best tip I can give for this is to actually jump into the ball. That way it doesn't have that bounce that we don't want. And we don't want that bounce because the ball actually bounces off the wall and gives you a really bad setup. So just make sure you do this jumping motion over and over. That way you get this down. And the next thing for the setup is tapping your brakes. And you might be thinking, why would I want to slow down if I'm trying to get the ball in the air? But basically, we just need to tap the brakes so we can get that little separation we need from the ball. And the separation is very important because if you don't have it, you're either going to go way past the ball or way behind the ball. So before I show you how to do the setup, let's look at the lip. And you may be saying to yourself, SolidP, what is the lip, bro? Well, let me explain. It's actually this highlighted area here, and you cannot boost while you're going up the lip during your setup. It's something not many people talk about, but it is crucial to follow this rule. And the reason why this is a rule is because if you boost while going up the lip, the ball's just going to hit the ceiling and you're going to lose complete control. And that's obviously just not what we want. But on the other hand, if you wait too long to boost, then the ball will go too far away from you and you'll lose control as well. So we need to find the sweet spot here so we can maintain control over the air dribble. And the sweet spot is right about when the ball starts to fall, so right there, and that's perfect. As soon as the ball loses momentum and it becomes a dead ball, that's when you're going to want to hit it. That ensures that the ball won't hit the ceiling, but it also won't go too far away from you. All right, so let me show you the setup in action. So let's use all the rules I've taught you so far, and if we do it like this, we're going to maintain perfect height and distance from the ball. And don't worry if you can't do all of this yet. I'm going to show you some more tips later on in the video, so make sure to stick around until the end. So now you know it's important to not boost up the lip, stick with the ball, and get good separation from the ball in the ceiling. I have one more tip that is very crucial for learning perfect air dribbles. You actually need to jump as soon as you touch the ball. And what this is going to do is basically allow you to have the same momentum as the ball, which trust me is very important for air dribble control. So let's take everything we've learned so far and put it all into one attempt. So what we're going to do is roll the ball up the wall. We won't boost up the lip, tap the brakes a tiny bit, jump as soon as your car touches the ball, and boom, there we go. We have achieved the perfect setup in Rocket League. And well, I might have lied. It's not perfect yet, so here's some tips to help you out. Don't train too much. Okay, you might think I'm crazy, but research shows that hyper-focused work sessions lasting from 1 to 3 hours can be more productive than traditional 8-hour workdays. So the same rules apply to Rocket League. Don't overtrain and just focus on what you need to work on. Just make sure you train in moderation and train efficiently. My next tip is to practice in free play only. Do not use training packs because contrary to popular belief, they can actually hinder your progress towards becoming a good air dribbler. And this is because in free play, you create your own setup, and in training packs, you don't get that option. And the reason why this is important is because in game, you will not have someone else to set up the ball for you. And like I mentioned previously, the setup is actually the most important part, so don't skip out on this. And the last and potentially best tip I have for you is that this mechanic will not help you rank up as much as you think. This is a mechanic you learn mainly because it looks cool. It's okay if you want to look cool while playing Rocket League, but I at least want you to be aware that this mechanic is mainly for looking flashy. If you really actually want to rank up, air dribbles are just not that important. And you should focus more on things like flicks, power shots, and boost control. On to step 3, the adjustment. As I mentioned earlier, you need to make sure you're jumping as soon as you touch the ball. When you air dribble, it's very important to make sure you get that perfect separation from the ball. This will make sure that you stay glued to the ball and have full control over it. And now for the air roll. And no, I don't mean spinning through the entire air dribble. I mean the initial twist you do after you jump to orient your car towards the ball. You can technically do the air dribble without the initial air roll, but what's the point? That'll just make it so much harder on yourself, especially when you're brand new to learning aerial car control. Moving on to step 4, how to practice. By now, you should know how to do the perfect setup for an air dribble, but you may not be able to do it perfectly. So to fix that, we're actually going to learn how to practice everything. And I have some tips and tricks you can use so you're not spamming the same failed air dribble attempt over and over. So this trick is actually going to help you with the adjustment that I mentioned earlier. And this works for all players, either console or PC. So what you're going to want to do is head over to free play and locate the map called Pillars. Now what Pillars is going to do is give you access to these 2 walls that aren't in standard Rocket League maps. And you might be thinking, how are these pillars pillar is useful at all? Well, if you come on over to this pillar over here, you could drive up this wall, jump off, air roll, and land on the other wall just like this. And what this actually does is gets you used to that 180 movement that you need to do to learn the air dribble. So you can just go back and forth just like this and just land on each wall over and over, and this should really help you with your setup. And you need to get to a point where you can do this over and over without even thinking about it. And make sure you're actually trying to do this fast, because you need to get to the ball as fast as possible during the air dribble. And if you don't get to the ball quick enough, you're going to get to the ball whenever it's falling, and if you've ever tried to air dribble, you know how hard that is to recover. If you followed along this far, you should be just under the ball, behind it, and heading towards your opponent's net. And don't do what most people do. They get excited, hold down the boost, and just completely mess up the air dribble. It's really important to make sure you're being very gentle with the air dribble. You got to remember that you're actually carrying the ball and not pushing it. So make sure you tap your boost, or better known in the Rocket League community as feathering your boost. And that's going to keep the ball close enough to your car so you're ready to make a touch around your opponent as soon as they challenge you. And if you're struggling to carry the ball across the field, you may need to try something called the 2-touch air dribble. And what this allows you to do is build your way up towards the 3-4 touch, even glue-like air dribbles. It's important to match the speed of the ball, that way you don't go way past it or way behind it. But what's also important is where you're actually hitting the ball during the carry. There is no specific sweet spot because each air dribble has its own speed, momentum, and angle, but the general rule is to carry the ball right around here. Okay, now for some final tips. A question I get a lot is, do I need air roll? And my answer is always absolutely not. And of course, air roll is very useful for control. I mean, there is a reason that the pros do it. But if you're a beginner trying to learn air dribbles, then you have absolutely no reason to be spinning throughout the entire air dribble. The only spinning that you need to do is the initial adjustment that we talked about earlier. Air roll is very useful later down the line in your Rocket League career, and it can help you get insane control over the ball. But for now, please just stick to the basics. Another question I get is, what's the best place to aim on net when trying to score an air dribble? And one of the best tips I can give to new players trying to learn air dribbles is to aim high. Fellow YouTuber Spook Luke actually taught me when I was learning air dribbles to aim one goal length above the actual net. So instead of trying to power the ball into the center of the net, try to score your air dribbles above the opponent's net. Now, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but let me explain. As new players, we like to overestimate what we can actually do, and we end up putting the ball down way too low. Plus, it's way better to miss high than it is to miss low, trust me. And the next question is very important, so please pay attention. What do I do if I fail mid-air dribble? You need to make sure you stay behind the ball and do not move. I can't stress that anymore. Literally just don't move. Instead of panicking, trying to recover the air dribble and actually just getting dunked, just float behind the ball and take a 50-50. You most likely won't be able to recover the air dribble anyway, so the 50 is just a better option. The truth is that air dribble 50s are actually very good for the attacker, and it's used in almost every single high-level game of Rocket League. So if you mess up the air dribble, just try to float behind the ball and get the best 50-50 that you can. So that's pretty much everything I could teach you about air dribbles. Make sure you subscribe and comment down below what videos you want to see next. It really helps me out a lot. And don't forget to click one of the videos on screen. Peace!